base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. I'm Jason Longshore. It's a little bit different setup today. Split squad performance today on the SDH network. Travel for me is the culprit this morning. I will be headed to Washington, D.C. as Atlanta United and D.C. United tangle in MLS tomorrow night. Our pre-match coverage starts at 7 o'clock on Star 94.1, by the way, 94.1 FM. You can listen on the Odyssey app. You can listen on the Atlanta United app. Jeff Larinowitz will be hanging with me in D.C. Mike Conti will be doing play-by-play on Bally Sports South. You can check him out with Mo Adu, with Jillian Sakovitz. So split squad for us tomorrow as well. It's a split squad everywhere these next couple of days. It's a World Cup draw day today. It's one of the biggest days in the game worldwide. We get to find out what the pathways look like for teams as they try to win the World Cup. John will have your reaction to that. The TV coverage of that starts at 11:30. You can watch it on Fox. You can watch it on Today NA in the U.S. You can watch a lot of that coverage worldwide with your fancy things to be able to draw in TV from other places. It's going to be very widely available. I don't know how many musical performances or speeches or any of that's going to happen. No idea. The draw might actually happen at 5 o'clock for all we know. But 11:30 on the TV side for that. We'll get into some of that this morning. We'll get into some of the news around the world this morning here in just a bit. You're going to hear from Jackson Conway, the reigning USL Championship Player of the Week. I had a chance to talk to him yesterday afternoon. We're going to talk about Atlanta and D.C. a bit. You're going to hear a clip from Gonzalo Pineda's media availability yesterday and a little bit of what he's thinking about D.C. United. And we will go through the MLS schedule and get you ready for the weekend in Major League Soccer. Let's start with the news of the day. Look, the biggest news is going to be the World Cup draw. We've went through all the permutations of it on yesterday's show, the rules of it. There's a few things to keep in mind as you might be looking at simulated draws today. There can be no more than 2 European teams in a group. There's going to be a European team in every group. There can be no more than one from any other confederation in a group. The groups are divided up by FIFA ranking, so it's a lot harder for a group of death to emerge. Of course, that could change between now and November, but not by a lot. Honestly, there's just not a lot of time for that to happen. I feel like Peru, if they qualify and they go into that, they're going to be in pot 4 if they get through the interconfederational playoff game. They're a team that can make a kind of group of death. I think they are a very difficult team to deal with out of pot 4. I don't know if Wales or Scotland or Ukraine would fall into that, honestly, if that would be a game changer for a group if you get one of those versus another. Depends on maybe how you feel about Gareth Bale. And it sounds like Milan might be interested in Gareth Bale on a short-term contract, by the way. I'm sure Nick Alifi's thrilled about that one. I think Peru is the one in pot 4 that can make this a little more complicated. For the U.S., I mean, really it's out of your hands at this point. You did the business to get here. This is the part that in the past, you would see groups that would terrify you, and you'd see groups that, all right, you felt were manageable. I think people going into 2006 in some ways felt like it was manageable, underrating the Czech Republic. 1998, I remember some positivity about that group outside of having to face Germany. That wasn't the case at all. 2002, people were terrified. Portugal was a tournament favorite, and you're facing the hosts in South Korea and a difficult Polish side, and you got through, and you get out of that. So you never can completely tell at the end of the draw. This one will be fairly balanced. I mean, out of the teams in pot 1, there are some teams that you want nothing to do with, but you don't have to beat them to get to the next round. That's the key, is you have to take care of the teams from pot 3 and pot 4. If you win those and you get 6 points, you're going to go through. I things could get weird, of course, but you're 90% going to go through. Pot 1, look, if it's Qatar, Not going to be easy facing them at home, but they're the weakest team in the tournament according to the FIFA rankings. Almost, not quite, almost. You'd like to get them. You want no part of Brazil. Belgium, on paper, you want no part of them. In reality, good deal. I want no part of France. I want no part of Argentina. I'm a little biased when it comes to Argentina. You guys know that by now. England, very difficult. I think the U.S. can actually match up pretty well with them, but very difficult. Spain is very young but incredibly talented, and they play a very different game that I think the U.S. would have some struggles with because they just don't face opponents who would dominate possession against them all that often. Portugal, look, we're having a flashback to 2002, right? That went pretty well. Portugal is a team that can absolutely beat you, and a team that you've had good success against in World Cups. You got a draw in 2014. You beat them in 2002. You take your chances. You got to deal with Cristiano Ronaldo. You take your chances. Pot 3 and 4, the U.S. should feel like they can beat any of those teams. None of them are easy, but they should feel like they can win those games. So there's nothing for Greg Berhalter and U.S. Soccer to be afraid of going into this. Absolutely nothing in my mind. The goal should be getting out of the group. The ranking points, the FIFA rankings, all of that tells you should get out of the group. That should be what the U.S. is striving for in this tournament, is to get out of the group, and then you let the chips fall where they may. You have no idea at that point what the knockout round looks like, what the bracket looks like, where things go from there. But you got to get out of the group. You got to get into the dance. I think the U.S. can get into that, and I think they can take care of it. The ranking points have changed a little bit with the last FIFA rankings. The U.S. was at the top of Pot 2 kind of coming into the last days of qualifying. They're more towards the back end of Pot 2. There wasn't a risk of them falling out of Pot 2 really in any significant way. But you're talking about ranking points of 25 that separate Mexico at the top of Pot 2 and the U.S. That's okay. You're going to be fine. Doesn't really matter. You're in Pot 2. That's what matters. You're in a spot where you should get out of the first round. You should get out of the group stage. And we had a long debate about it yesterday. You know, I think Jarrett used the word abject failure, used the phrase abject failure. If you don't, I'm not going to go quite that far because you never know what the situation can be. You know, if you have a significant injury in a World Cup, it can change everything. We've seen it. We saw it in 2014 when Josie Altidore went down in Game 1. You should have had Landon Donovan in that tournament. That's a whole another conversation. Good job, Jurgen. But if all things are where they should be, the U.S. should qualify for the round of 16. And that would be an amazing return to the tournament and a great way to build for 2026. I think that was always the plan. Qualify with a young team. They did. One of the youngest teams in the world to qualify. Job done. 4 years, that team's going to be even more experienced and in a better position at home to maybe make a run we've never seen before. A lot better position than they were in 94, where they got to the second round and had a pretty epic game against Brazil. When you go back to that 94 game, look, they were under the cosh a lot against Brazil. No question about it. Brazil went on to win the thing. But a 1-0 loss to Brazil on July 4th was just one of the most amazing moments for U.S. soccer up to that point. 26, the goal will be to get beyond that and get to the quarterfinals and who knows where else. You get 4 more years of Christian Pulisic, 4 more years of Gio Reyna, 4 more years of Weston McKennie. You should expect that. More players emerging. This group, though, can make some noise. Things fall their way, they can make a lot of noise. It's been a fun ride to see this team get through, and I think the fun is really only beginning for this group of U.S. men's national team players. Can't wait to see who they draw. Can't wait to then start breaking down the matchups and looking at it. Can't wait to see what their preparation is going to be. We've talked about it. It's not going to be normal. You might have a week after players are released from their clubs before they play their first World Cup game. That is not typical at all. You're going to have an opportunity this summer to play games, to play meaningful games. If I was U.S. Soccer and I could pull it off, I would be really tempted to bring back the old U.S. Cup, bring 3 teams in, play a simulated World Cup group, try to get opponents like who you're going to face. Greg Berhalter talked about it yesterday. You know, you haven't played African teams or Asian teams in a long time. If you get one in your group, which you probably will, you might need to try to play somebody similar. It would be helpful stylistically. It'd be massively helpful if you're going to play, if you get Spain, you need to play somebody who's going to try to dominate possession against you, and you need to get that experience because the U.S. generally likes to control the games. So a lot of things to do between the draw being completed and the tournament kicking off. That preparation will be key. There's another opportunity to play games in September, and there's already reports out of Argentina that Argentina and Mexico will play in Los Angeles in the September window, unless they get drawn into the same group, and then I would assume that they won't because that'd be a few months before they'd play in a meaningful game. That'd be bonkers if they actually played it. Maybe the U.S. slots into that if Mexico gets into the group with Argentina. We'll see. There's talk about the U.S. and Argentina playing a friendly before the tournament. So lots of stuff to come. I would not be surprised if we don't see a lot of summer friendlies and not just involving the U.S. and Mexico maybe. Could be some other teams in our area this summer. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see where all this goes. A World Cup year special, a World Cup year with your country in it is just one of those sporting experiences that as a fan you remember for your whole life. I'll always remember watching the U.S. in the World Cup for the first time in my lifetime in 1990 and how excited I was to see them play in Florence against Czechoslovakia and how sad I was when the Czechs won 5-1. But Paul Caligiuri's goal in that, I will always remember that goal. Like it plays in my mind. I remember it. I remember where I was watching it. I was watching it with my dad. I remember what it looked like. I'll always have that memory. I always have the memory of the next game where they almost beat Italy, at least almost tied Italy. And Peter Vermes sent a free kick through that Walter Zinga somehow got through his legs, but he was crouching down. Walter Zinga made a save with his rear end to a degree. And Italy, the hosts, could not really break through Tony Meola and the U.S. defense. I'll always remember that game because it felt like the U.S. might shock the world. It was close. 94, obviously, I think a lot of people have those memories from that. 98, not memories that I really want to have much of. I think I try to block them generally. It's a very disappointing tournament. There's a lot of hype going into it, but a very disappointing tournament. You had the whole John Harkes as captain being dropped in the build-up to it, which, cast a pall and everything, and we didn't know the full story until years later. It was a very difficult build-up to 98. 2002, I had no expectations because you were in the group of death. Nobody expected the U.S. to get out of that group. Nobody expected them to beat Portugal in game one, and you get 3 quick goals in game one. And, it was in the middle of the night, too. I'm running around the living room trying not to wake anybody up, just freaking out. The goal Clint Mathis scored against South Korea, an incredible goal. One of the more underrated ones in U.S. soccer history. Then how bad it was against Poland, looking like you're going to go out of the tournament after all of that, looking like you're going to go out with 4 points, and you get the result in the other game with South Korea and Portugal, and you get to go through, and you get to go through against Mexico. That's a whole nother situation of, okay, well, you backed into the round of 16 because you shouldn't have gone through, but you get through because South Korea knocks out Portugal. Then you get to face a team that you're not afraid of at that stage. The U.S. had no fear of Mexico. Incredible game. And that's the one that I'll remember forever is going into a round of 16 game where the U.S. is not the giant underdog. And they beat Mexico, and they dominated Mexico. And it was a masterclass from Bruce Arena tactically, going into 3-5-2, and Claudio Reyna playing as a right wing back. And then you get into the quarterfinals, somewhere that the U.S. had never been in modern times. And they played the best game I've ever seen the U.S. play against Germany. Landon Donovan was brilliant early. Oliver Kahn was even more brilliant for Germany. Just incredible denials of Landon on a couple of occasions. Germany gets a goal. The U.S. should have had at least a penalty, and playing against 10, Torsten Frings with the handball on the line. That was not called. VAR absolutely would have called it if you had VAR. You didn't. You lose 1-0. It was a gut punch because I felt like they could at least take it to extra time. And I feel like they should have with that penalty. You never know if it gets converted, of course, and you never know if you're playing 11v10 if you're able to take care of business. But at least they should have had 30 more minutes to solve that one. It was an incredible day for the game in this country, even in a loss. And it's still probably until we get to that stage again, it's the best performance that I've seen from the U.S. It's the thing about a World Cup. Great Gold Cup wins, the Nations League win this past summer, great qualifying wins. There's just nothing like a World Cup. There's nothing like that stage. And that Germany game will always stick with me, probably until it gets replaced by a bigger performance. Maybe that happens this winter. I almost said summer by default. Maybe it happens this winter. Maybe it happens in 26. I don't know. We'll find out, won't we? 2006, I don't like to remember much of that one. 2010, obviously the Landon Donovan moment, and it's the most special moment for an individual moment in U.S. soccer history. There's nothing that can compare to it. I'll always remember where I was at a diesel filling station in Virginia Highlands, jumping up and down at about noon. I think it was a 10 a.m. kickoff. And a bar full of people just absolutely losing their minds over that goal. And all the stress building up to it, too, because the U.S. needed a goal badly. There's a moment in that play where Tim Howard throws it out to Donovan, where Donovan takes a touch and the defender gets caught in between because Donovan plays it far enough out in front that the defender hesitates for a second. Like, can I get there? No, I can't. And you can see him freak out. That was the moment that I think I jumped up out of my seat because then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now he might be able to break. And it's just little things like that stick with you. The World Cup is a wonderful thing. And look, it's going to get muddled by how this tournament ended up in Qatar. It's going to get muddled by the politics of Qatar, the domestic policies of Qatar. It's going to get muddled by a lot of things. We know all about sports washing. We've talked all about sports washing on the show. It is going to be a conversation throughout this tournament. You want to get positive attention for hosting a tournament like this? It's the biggest tournament in the world. I get why you'd pay for it, and allegedly that's what happened. But you're going to get a lot of attention. It's not all going to be positive, and it doesn't need to be. So that is the story of today, the World Cup draw in Qatar. We'll find out who the three teams the U.S. are in a group with. Get ready for that. 11:30 is when the TV broadcast starts. John will have your reaction to the draw, some early thoughts on groups and which one's tough and which one's not and how the U.S. fared and all these different things. Be on the lookout for that this afternoon on the SDH network. Coming up right now, though, I had a chance yesterday to talk to Jackson Conway, the Atlanta United forward, who with Atlanta United 2 last week had a hat trick in the second half, led the Twos to a win over the Charleston Battery, was named the USL Championship Player of the Week. Great performance from Jackson, and he's always a guy that I enjoy talking to. Very open, doesn't give you stock answers, doesn't give you cliches. I think somebody who is very thoughtful about how he wants to answer the questions, and it's just always a good conversation with him. He's a young pro that, I think with all the guys who come through the Atlanta United Academy, we're rooting for them. You want them to succeed, and Jackson's one that definitely fits into that category. I haven't seen him since 2018 with Atlanta United 2. It's fifth year that he's played with Atlanta United 2 in some aspect. He has MLS experience. He has CONCACAF Champions League experience and has a goal. He's a player right on the edge of really busting through, and games like what he had last Sunday at Fifth Third Bank Stadium can help him break through and be somebody that this club can count on a big way. In our conversation, I started with asking him what the reaction was to that big win, because Atlanta United 2's had some good performances this season, hasn't really gotten the reward for those good performances. They finally got it against the Battery and got that first win. I asked Jackson Conway what the feeling was like in the team afterwards.
Yeah, no, the team was buzzing. Jack was buzzing. The team put a lot of work in. outside of the proving ground, which was important. Like you said, yeah, we much deserved win. Yeah, I mean, a good performance by myself, and my teammates backed me up with service, which is important. And yeah, the team deserved it. I think Charleston aren't usually they're a tough side. I think very physical. They usually have a lot of veteran players, and that's the youngest USL team I've ever played in. So it was good to see that those guys could hold their ground and put up a good performance against the team who, if not the longest lasting team in the USL. So yeah, very important win for the guys, and yeah, they should be happy going into this next game. So
How's the transition been for you going from being one of the youngest guys in a pretty young group with Atlanta United 2 over the years to not being the youngest guy, and some of those guys are looking up to you?
Yeah, because I remember being in their shoes. Always wondering, am I going to play this game? Am I going to play that game? And you just got to take it step by step because, I think this is my 5th year playing in the USL or playing in at least some games. And, that just shows how long it can take, until you either break into that first team or finally find your form that you need. So it's really important for a young player to start getting these games at such a young age because, you start, developing as a person and as a player physically, mentally. And the USL is a good league to kind of show yourself, and that's really important. And yeah, so it's good for a bunch of these young guys, academy guys who aren't even signed yet, to kind of boost themselves into whatever they're doing, whether it's college, whether it's signing with the club. And yeah, I remember being there. I remember being all anxious, like, oh, what are they going to do with me? Are they going to sign me? Are they not? And you just gotta show on the field that you deserve to be there. And I think these group of guys, the bar is set really high. Just because lost the first 3 games. We were in those games. I think we maybe deserved a little bit more. Team played well, but we're in a tough league with a bunch of tough players and teams. So yeah, players have done well so far, and they, like I said, the bar set really high, and the ceiling's very high for all those guys. So
After those first games where I'm with you, I felt like the performances deserved more than the results got. You get that late red card against Charleston. You go into the locker room at halftime. I'm sure you as a forward had to be licking your chops about the amount of space you were going to be able to find in that second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And not only that, I just knew I needed to score for myself and the team because, in previous games I've had chances where I needed to put them away because I think when I score or play well, I think that's what backs the teams up. I think if Jackson's scoring, like, all right, let's go. Let's roll our sleeves up. Let's go. And, that's really important as a forward because you want to stand out. You want to, be the guy who's scoring all the goals, but then you want to be a leader as well, whether it's in the press, all the players behind you are like, all right, Jackson's pressing. Let's step up. Let's step the line. Let's do that stuff. And yeah, so it's good. Personally, I really needed it. Like I said, having missed a couple of chances in those first 3 games, I think, I deserved to finally get on the score sheet, which I did 3 times. So yeah, I mean, it was a good game. I had fun. Scoring's awesome. Scoring is great. But yeah, not only for the team, for myself, I wanted to kind of show what kind of maybe like I don't know, what the first team's missing a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm still here, I guess you could say. Kind of, put my stamp on it again that, hey, maybe Gonzo can trust me. A bunch of these guys do. So maybe it was kind of like I can do it. I can do it in the USL. Been doing it in training. So maybe, like I said, maybe it was a little personal boost, I think.
Yeah, look, you talked about that at the beginning of preseason, and you talked about wanting to stake a claim to playing time with the first team, playing time in general. How would you kind of rate yourself on that so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get games in the USL for sure. But I think the most important thing for me is just the consistency.
Yeah.
You know, it is tough playing in both teams. Kind of, you hear something from one coach and then you got to go down and see what those guys are doing. And it's tough, but I mean, playing in games is what you want. You just want to play games, play as much as possible, and the rest will figure itself out. Like I said, we're all here for a reason, so it's just the minutes. The minutes is important, and those 3 goals were important. I tell you that.
Yep.
So I mean, as long as I'm playing, that's important to me. Scoring especially. But yeah, I mean, I remember in preseason, that was kind of my main focus was, the game doesn't really have to revolve around me. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to be the playmaker. I don't have to, touch the ball every time, the team's in attack. I just want to get into that box. I want to, do what I can for the team. And sometimes that's what's important in a forward is, you may have a bad game, a rough game, but I mean, if you get yourself on the score sheet, then sometimes that's all people look at, and yeah, so I mean, I'm just gonna stick to it, whether I'm playing with the first team, second team, play the best I can. And that's important for young players is no matter where you're playing, you're playing the game, people trust you, just keep working at it and yeah, you'll get what you deserve. So
You're getting that experience that a lot of young players worldwide get, where they're on the cusp of the first team. They've had some time with the first team, they've had great moments with the first team, and the minutes maybe are coming a little bit more with the second team right now. And you're getting feedback from both coaches. I'm sure you're getting feedback from Gonzalo Pineda.
absolutely, yeah.
You're getting feedback from Jack Collison. What has that feedback been like so far this season on what's good and what they wanted you to continue to work on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jack has played at the highest level and has played with a bunch of good strikers, so he obviously knows what he's talking about when he's talking. Same with Gonzo. Gonzo, the same boat. So they obviously have something to tell me, and they'll tell me if I had a bad game, they'll tell me if I had a good game, then they'll also tell me, and that's important. So, I mean, yeah, Jack was so happy for me after scoring the hat trick. He knows how much work I put in training. I've been staying after training, doing a lot of finishing, not quite with my head, but, with my feet and all that stuff. So, yeah, and same on the first team. I had a long chat with Rob before, the Charleston game, kind of just to get his overall feedback. And that kind of helped me because I know Rob's on my side. Rob was there, when I first started playing in the USL. He was the assistant manager. So we've kind of grown up together, which I think is really important. And Rob really trusts me. And I think it's important as a player to go and show that trust back into the coach. They trust to put you out on the field, and you got to show and play for them. So that's important. And yeah, I mean, the locker room after the game, everyone was so happy. Like you could just show that we deserved that game. Team played excellent. Best performance I think that I've been in with the twos. They showed a lot of character. And yeah, it's just overall feedback. Some people listen to it, some people don't. And I think it's important that you do, because, I mean, you can easily go up to a coach and be like, hey, coach, what do I need to do better? Like, you could do that. Mm-hmm. Or you could, have a real sit down with them and be like, what can I work on? What do I do in this game? Do you have any video? Do you have any, you know what I'm saying? It's little things like that because a coach doesn't want to hear what do I need to do to be better, you know what I mean? As a player, you shouldn't really say that,
What's really struck me about you, Jackson, is like you're, I think, very critical of yourself at times. You're very analytical about your performances, and you're
Mm-hmm.
always looking for that edge. And that's not something every young player has. It's impressive to see about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you obviously have to be critical of yourself because, I mean, you're playing at the highest level there is in the U.S. And some people are going to have different opinions, but, the most important thing is, I mean, if you know what you did wrong, then, you can fix it. You can talk with people. We have all these resources that, you can watch video. You can do a little 1v1 with the coach, and do a bit of extra after training. I'm in a good circuit. I'm in a good boat with a lot of people that trust me, and with a lot of good players around me. So I mean, it's set up for success, and you just kind of have to, put the little cherry on the top, I think.
The last thing I wanted to cover with you, I think it'll be great for fans to understand, because we've talked about it a lot on broadcasts with the first team and with the twos. Your role as a forward, I think back in the day, it was purely just score goals. We don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
Put the ball in the back of the net. The way that Atlanta United plays across all of its clubs, all of its teams, you have to do a lot more than that. You have to lead the press, like you mentioned. You have to connect with others. You have to bring others into the play.
Yeah.
How much, responsibility is there on a forward in an Atlanta United system?
Yeah, it's huge. Huge. Apart from scoring, you have to link players in. You have to really kind of put your body on the line against a big defender to try and get either like it's a flick on, or you got to hold it up, bring other players into the game. And I think that's kind of my main goal is, some in those games, sometimes I'll be isolated. Sometimes the team will be, pinned back and they need to play a long ball up to me, and I'll do my best to hold it up. That's important, because one, it gives them a breather, and two, it shows that you can handle, being physical against some of these big guys in the league, both first team and USL. So yeah, I mean, leading from the start, you kind of think of, a forward as being the leader. He may not be the captain, but he's at the front of the field. Like you said, he leads that press. And I mean, yeah, you can try and score as many goals as possible. So, yeah, I think, as I made my way through the ranks of Atlanta United, I've always tried to work on that hold-up play, because it's important. People may not think so. People may be like, oh, like, you need to run behind more. Like, I mean, you need to bring other players into the game. And it looks good. It looks, like a team should play. If someone, launches it forward, he's not just kicking it. He's launching it to a forward who can hold it up. And that's kind of been Atlanta United's way. Yeah, we want to play out from the back. Yeah, but sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you'll have a team that's full press, and you can't do that. So you'll have to take that risk and hope your forward can do his job. So it's really important.
Oh, it was a great performance on the weekend. USL Championship Player of the Week. There's a lot more to come in 2022 for you, Jackson Conway. So. Thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Jason, thank you.
Thanks again to Jackson Conway. Thanks again to Atlanta United, Mateen Rad, for making that happen. We'll have more interviews like that with Atlanta United 2 players, Atlanta United players, some of the people behind the scenes as well, coming up throughout the whole year with the live shows as well on SDH. We have a huge live show coming up next Thursday. It is going to be a little limited on availability to attend, because it is shaping up to be a very big deal. It's in partnership with the Argentine consulate here in Atlanta. I'm really looking forward to this over at Elsewhere Brewing in Grant Park. That's going to be next Thursday. We'll have more details on, if you are able to attend, how you can do so. Be on the lookout for that first thing next week. But you'll be able to watch that on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere, and we'll have that go out as a podcast very quickly afterwards. Really looking forward to that. We have more shows coming up throughout the year with Atlanta United guests, both on the morning show and on some of the live appearances as well. So thanks to everybody over there for making that happen, and thanks again to Jackson for taking some time out after training yesterday. Let's get into the MLS weekend. After a little bit of a news update from this morning. So a couple of things out there right now, some rumor and innuendo. Barcelona mentioned that they've been kind of sniffing around Cesar Azpilicueta, Andreas Christensen, Antonio Rudiger. The Telegraph reporting that Barcelona is really making a big push right now to try to sign these guys. They can sign them to pre-contracts. They're out of contract with Chelsea in the summer. They can sign them to pre-contracts right now. Chelsea can't. They can't sign anybody right now. So Barcelona is trying to take advantage and sign all three. You bring all three to Barcelona for next year. Rudiger's 29, Azpilicueta's 32, Christensen 25. You have massively improved your backline with one fell swoop if Barcelona can pull that off. Stay tuned. Gareth Bale out of contract with Real Madrid in the summer, a target for AC Milan, according to Rudy Galletti of Calcio Mercato. If Wales qualifies, he's going to have to play somewhere, right, to be ready for the World Cup in November. So be on the lookout for where he could land. Cardiff City's name had come up. If they don't qualify, there's speculation that Gareth Bale might just hang him up. He might retire. He's 32. I just don't know if he has the passion for it. I think he has the passion for playing for his country. I don't know if he has the passion for the day-to-day, as other players do. Look, if that's his prerogative, you know. But if they qualify, and he's going to have games with Wales in November, he's at least got to be playing and training somewhere in the build-up to that. So Milan would be a target that, or a place I didn't think would be interested, but that's what Rudy Galletti of Calcio Mercato is reporting. Leeds United, according to Team Talk, are looking at Serginho Dest. Barcelona, U.S. men's national team, Jesse Marsh now at Leeds, knows Dest pretty well. Would be a very interesting signing and would give him a very different kind of foundation of play coming into a World Cup with Greg Berhalter. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Some of that's going to be down to what Barcelona does in that transfer window, and if Dest is going to stick around and play for Xavi, or if they're going to upgrade at that position and look to move on. So stay tuned. Serginho Dest and Leeds United are in the mix. Bundesliga had a report this morning about revenue generated in the 2020-2021 season. It shrank more than 8.5%. Dropped a decent bit, about 0.5, about $500 million, or €500 million. This is down to not having fans in the stands for all of their matches in that season. They'd predicted a drop in turnover of about €1 billion during the season if fans had to stay away. It wasn't completely that bad, but it has been a real challenge for a lot of these teams, and it's something that all leagues around the world are looking to deal with as these numbers start to come out and we really get a sense of the full economic impact of COVID on these leagues. Donata Hopfen, speaker of the Bundesliga, the DFL Executive Committee, said that we're facing an unprecedented situation. The era of growth as something to be taken for granted seems to be over. Without a doubt, this will massively impact our development in the years to come. Nevertheless, considerable challenges always come with considerable opportunities. We must explore new avenues to make the German professional football future-proof while upholding our traditions and values. It is going to be interesting to see how leagues deal with this. You are seeing changes in the way leagues go out and clubs go out and sign players and how much they're going to spend on a transfer fee. You're seeing, players opt to run contracts out rather than wait on a transfer fee. They'll just become a free agent, essentially. So things are shifting. Who gets it first is going to have a huge advantage. We'll see if the Bundesliga is that team or is that league. Mentioned it yesterday about the new offside rule that is going to be trialed. We now know at least one league that is going to trial it, and this is typical when they do these things. It's not high-profile leagues because this is a high-profile change. The new change in offside would be a player is onside if any part of their body that can score a goal is in line with the defender. Right now, if any part is offside, you're off. It's going to flip to if any part is on, you're on. So it gives you basically that body length that we've been talking about. The Italian U18 League, according to the FIGC in Italy, the federation, they will be one of the leagues trialing this new offside rule. Curious to see what the reaction will be to it. Other things going on today, Real Madrid have taken advantage of the special transfer window that FIFA established following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They've signed Vinicius Tobias of Shakhtar, 18-year-old Brazilian fullback. He's on loan until the end of the season and for the upcoming campaign with a purchase option of €18 million written into the deal. He'll have to go into the second team for this year with Real Madrid because they have squad spots and they have no limit on non-EU players. Atleti was chasing him. Can't play in La Liga this season, but Real Madrid taking advantage of that open door to grab a player that they feel like could turn into a first-team player. Jason Burt at The Telegraph reporting that Manchester United are expected to carry out a second and final round of interviews before appointing their new manager. Erik ten Hag has emerged as the clear favorite, according to The Telegraph. Big game this weekend in Scotland, Rangers and Celtic, the 428th time they have played in a competitive match. Title's on the line. It's the biggest for more than a decade. They kind of say that every year, so I take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But it's a 7 a.m. kickoff on Sunday, our time. Celtic has a 3-point lead at the top of the table through 31 games. They will play again once they do the split, and they'll play in the semifinals of the Scottish Cup. So there's more fun coming for Jared Smith and everybody who gets wrapped up into the old firm. But it starts Sunday, 7 o'clock. Celtic with that 3-point lead at the top of the table. Rangers win. You're level on points. Celtic has the goal differential right now. That's your news update this morning. I'm sure there will be more, and if there is, John will catch that up in the afternoon show where he talks about the World Cup draw. But let's take a look at the weekend in MLS coming up. Let's start on Saturday, 3:30. Chicago hosting Dallas. Chicago's a plus 100. Draws plus 250. Dallas is plus 275. These teams coming in, both of them have won back-to-back matches. Both teams, I think, are building. Both teams are interesting ones to watch. Nico Moreno talked about this yesterday on the show. This is a very intriguing one. Dallas with Paul Arriola, with Alan Velasco, with Jesus Ferreira. That's a front line that you got to look at, and you got to look at as maybe one of the better ones in the league. Chicago with Xherdan Shaqiri, with Kasper Shibilko starting to get goals for them. Is that dynamic duo going to be enough? They've been really good defensively with Gaga Slonina in goal and a good backline. Ezra Hendrickson and Nico Esteves, two managers new to their teams who are both doing very, very well in the early going. It's a tough one to pick. Chicago at home, I will go with the home team on this one. I'll go with the favorite in the Fire. But, man, I am not surprised if Dallas pulls something out of it. I think Chicago at home will take care of business, but maybe a sneaky choice for a game of the week in MLS. Toronto, NYC. This is a 4 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. Road favorite here. NYC is a plus 100. The draw is plus 240. Toronto plus 275. Now, keep in mind when we talk about NYC and we talk about Seattle this week, they meet in Seattle in CONCACAF Champions League semifinal on the 6th next week. Are they going to rotate their squad ahead of that? I would assume yes. It's a semifinal in CONCACAF. Yes, I would think that they will. Is that still going to be enough to go into Toronto and get a result? It could be. It could be. NYC, league form, they're on 4 points. They've won 1, they've lost 2, they've drawn 1. Toronto's in the same spot. NYC's had a pretty good excuse for that with CONCACAF. I think they're disjointed. I think they're looking ahead. I don't think this is a pretty one, but I do think Toronto gets a point here. I will go draw with Toronto and NYC, and almost purely because NYC is not going to be at full strength in this one as they prepare for CONCACAF Champions League. Also at 4 o'clock, Cincinnati, Montreal. Cincinnati plus 138, draw plus 260, Montreal plus 180. Cincinnati did play Game 5 in Charlotte. It didn't go very well for them. They had won 2 in a row. They lost to Charlotte. Didn't look very good in that one. Montreal, we know what happened with them last time. We watched it at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 3-1 lead that they lost and turned into a 3-3 draw with Thiago Almada and Brooks Lennon scoring late. Montreal has had CONCACAF Champions League as a distraction. I think Montreal is a much better team than their record with 1 point. I think Cincinnati is maybe not quite as good as their record with 6 points. I'm going to go with the road team here. I'm going to go with Montreal, having a couple of weeks off, a couple weeks to sort things out. I think Wilfred Nancy gets it done and goes into Cincinnati and gets a win. I will go with the road team Montreal here. in this one. Let's move up to 6 o'clock. Columbus hosting Nashville. Columbus, big favorite, minus 110. Draws plus 230. Nashville plus 333. Nashville's lost back-to-back games. Columbus, 2 wins, 2 draws, no losses. Not expected to have Lucas Zelarayan, though, for that reason, and really for that reason only, because Lucas Zelarayan, your player of the month, the first month of the season, he's been brilliant. Without him, I don't think Columbus is nearly the same team. I think Nashville is going to get this right. Now, they've had a lot of travel. They will have a lot of travel. They've had half of their 8-game road trip to start the season. Started with a win, then a draw, then 2 losses. You've had a couple weeks to recharge. I think Nashville goes to Columbus and gets a draw. I don't think it's a beautiful one. I think the Crew are going to be feisty. I think Nashville's going to be feisty. I'll go draw here, and mainly because Zelarayan is expected to be out. If for some reason Zelarayan plays, Columbus will win. But I don't think he does, so my official prediction, because I think some people track these, my official prediction is a draw here. But if Zelarayan plays, that would change for me. All right, let's move to the games at 7:30. We know DC and Atlanta is 7:30. Let's look at the others quickly. Orlando hosting LAFC. Orlando plus 150, LAFC plus 170. The draw is plus 250. Orlando got a draw during the break. They were in Portland. Gave up a penalty in the last 10 minutes against 10-man Portland. They had 2 wins before that. They're on 8 points. LAFC, 3 wins out of 4, draw in the other one. I think LAFC goes to Orlando and gets the win. I do agree with Nico from yesterday that LAFC is not quite as good as maybe we thought they would be at full strength. Something seems to be a little off. I don't know if it's distractions with Vela. I don't know if it's just inconsistency with him. Arango, it's not quite there. He's been banged up. It's not quite as good as it could be, but I think LAFC is good enough to go to Orlando and get the win. I think Orlando is a good team. I don't think they're a top team, and I think a lot of that is down to the defense that LAFC can't exploit. So I will go with the black and gold to win on the road in Central Florida. Also 7:30, New England Revolution, New York Red Bulls, Revs plus 105, Red Bulls plus 250, draw plus 260. I've been very high on the Red Bulls. 2 wins, a loss, and then a draw against Columbus. I had a chance to watch that. It was a very game on both sides. The Red Bulls don't mind playing those games. They like to make it difficult for you. We know that. New England, very in their last couple of games. The capitulation against Real Salt Lake, the capitulation in CONCACAF Champions League, and then a 3-1 loss in Charlotte. The Revs will be back. They're too good not to be. The Red Bulls will try to make it difficult for them. I don't know if they can do that here, though, enough to get the win. I don't think the Red Bulls can quite pull it off at Gillette Stadium. I think the Revs get back on the horse and get a win at home against the Red Bulls, but I don't think it's an easy one. It'll be a fight. They'll suffer through it. They will definitely suffer, but I think they'll be able to break down the Red Bulls press just enough to get it. I'll go with a 2-1 win. Let's move over 7:30 to Philadelphia and Charlotte in Chester, PA. Philly minus 227, draw plus 350, Charlotte plus 600. I agree with these odds. It'll be the first time that Miguel Angel Ramirez and Charlotte face Philadelphia. Philadelphia's won 3 in a row. Charlotte is better than we thought they would be at this point. I thought it'd take them a little bit longer. That's a credit to Miguel Angel Ramirez. It's a credit to Karol Swiderski. I think this is a tough matchup for them the first time out. I mean, when you play teams like Philly, you have to experience it a little bit before you know how to deal with it. That's where I'm at with this game. I think Philly takes care of business. I agree with Dylan Butler from earlier this week. I think Philly's the best team in the league right now. We'll see if that continues. But against a team in Charlotte who is still figuring themselves out, I think this is a game where they have a lot of questions about themselves afterwards. I think Philly wins it 2-0 and controls the play pretty comfortably. 7:30 out west, San Jose hosting Austin. Very even matchup here. San Jose plus 150, Austin plus 170, draw plus 250. This was on our picks of the week. I went draw. I'm going to stay with the draw in these picks. I think two teams that will be open in different ways, and I think they'll kind of match each other in this one. I think San Jose can find a goal or two, and I think Austin can find a goal or two. It could be very entertaining, but I don't know if either team can take the advantage here. So I'm going to go draw with that one. Minnesota, Seattle. Minnesota is the favorite, plus 110. Draw plus 240. Seattle plus 250. Just like we talked about with NYC, I don't think Seattle will be 100%. I don't think they will be at full strength. They're going to have to look ahead to CONCACAF Champions League. They are getting healthier, but full strength with CONCACAF looming, no. I don't see them fielding their best choice lineup. I don't know if that's enough for Minnesota to take full advantage of. I can see Seattle grinding out a draw here. And that's where I'm going to be. I'm pulling the John Nelson draw on that one. Miami and Houston. Yes, they're playing. It's at 8 o'clock. You might not want to have that one on for your quad box. Maybe this is one that you just check out the highlights afterwards. Miami's a favorite, plus 130. Draw plus 240. Houston plus 210. Houston is generally very, very bad on the road. They haven't shown us anything to dispute that right now. So I am going to go with Miami getting their first win of the season in Fort Lauderdale. I think they find a way. Maybe Gonzalo Higuain breaks out. I'll go with Miami and the Herons to beat Houston. It's mainly down to the Dynamo's woeful road record over the years. Another very even one, Vancouver hosting Sporting Kansas City. This is an 8 o'clock kick Eastern time. Whitecaps plus 163, Sporting plus 175, draw plus 225. It kind of matches how I feel about this game. Sporting did get a win over the break at home against RSL, but Sporting has questions about the number 9 position. They have questions about the number 6 position. They have questions about Johnny Russell and Daniel Shallowy equaling what they did last year. Vancouver has questions because they don't have a win this season. And they had that great run late last year, but was that a blip? Was that reality? Right now it's looking like a blip. I'm going to go draw on this one as well, mainly because I don't know what to expect out of these two teams. I just don't. Vancouver's been very disappointing, and Sporting just has so many questions that I don't know who they are yet. That's a little surprising about a Peter Vermes team. So I'll go draw in Vancouver between those two. Let's move on to Colorado and Real Salt Lake, a 9 o'clock Eastern time kick. This is always a great rivalry game. Rapids, big favorites, minus 149, 280 on the draw, RSL plus 400. Rapids have turned it around after a bad start, dealing with CONCACAF, 3 straight unbeaten. Real Salt Lake had won 3 in a row before losing in Sporting Kansas City. These numbers are very appealing if you're an RSL fan or if you really buy into RSL. I'm not going to go with the numbers on this one. I'm going to go with Colorado to win at home. I think they are a team that has gotten back to their roots, and they kind of lost that early in the season a bit. They lost it with CONCACAF. The Comunicaciones result, I think, kind of shocked them back to reality. They're a good defensive team, and they can get forward. And Diego Rubio can play in that system and do well. I still think they need a better number 9. It's no offense to Diego Rubio, but if Colorado is going to be a title contender, which the rest of the team, you could argue that they are, I think they need a top number 9 to be that. And I don't know if Rubio is quite at that level. So I'm going to go with Colorado to win here. I think they can handle things at home against RSL. Still curious to see if they make a bigger move. Or, look, the other side of it is if Diego Rubio keeps playing like he has lately, you might not need to make that move. And maybe he turns into that forward that's good enough for them to win things. I think they're good enough to beat RSL at home. Last one for the weekend. It is on Sunday. It is a 4:30 Eastern time kick. Portland Timbers hosting the LA Galaxy, plus 110 for the Timbers, plus 210 for the Galaxy. Draw plus 260. Timbers had the draw against Orlando. That was a very mixed bag of a performance. Galaxy have been a mixed bag all season. 2 wins to start, 2 losses after that. Portland has 3 draws on the year, both teams on 6 points. Portland's played 1 more game. Man, is this one a draw too? I don't know where I am with the Galaxy yet. I think I have a pretty strong opinion of the LA Galaxy in general. They don't always meet that, and maybe they will later on in the season, but Portland at home is a tough team to pick against. Giovanni Savarese really structures his team to be, I think, a difficult team to break down. And LA, if you can take that element away from them, if you can kind of stifle Chicharito, if you can shut down Douglas Costa, I think Portland can get the win here. I will go with the Timbers at home to beat the LA Galaxy on Sunday, 4:30. That's the rest of your schedule, and I'll kind of finish here with a little bit about Atlanta and DC quickly. First, I want you to hear a response from Gonzalo Pineda from yesterday's media availability. J. Sam Jones asked him about DC and kind of how he expected to deal with a DC team that generally plays very direct.
Well, first of all, again, trying to be good with the ball. I think that's the key for us. If we're good with the ball, we don't give them a lot of chances to be direct, to be on the front foot. So we have to be good on the ball, brave on the ball, trying to put all of our concentration on connecting my passes, on passing on the right foot, passing on the right pace, play and move, creating rotations, attacking the spaces that we want to attack. And I think that's the way. Obviously, we understand that they really like to be direct. They don't want a lot of possession. They want to be direct. 2-3 passes, they go long, and then they come for the second ball, and then they're very good at attacking the back line. So obviously, we train how to try to cover that, and hopefully that can work.
Being good on the ball, that's the hallmark of Atlanta United soccer, and it will be under Gonzalo Pineda. He also talked about the rotations, and I think it's going to be a narrative, a topic for the entire season about who's playing where, what position. Is Moreno on the wing? Is Almada on the wing? How that looks. It's all about the rotations. It's not that these guys are going to stay out wide the whole time. I think what we have seen with Ronald Hernandez, with Brooks Lennon when he's been a fullback, with Andrew Gutman on the left, is Gonzalo Pineda wants his fullbacks to function as wingers a lot of the time, which means whoever's playing the wing has to come inside a lot of the time. Not always. You can combine out there too, but you've got to clear the space. So I don't think it really matters that much if Moreno, if Almada are playing wide versus central. One of them will be wide because you're going to get all four on the field with Araujo when he's healthy. He's not going to be healthy this time. So one of them will be a winger, but I don't think they play as much like a winger. Ezequiel Barco didn't play much like a winger. He cut inside. He wanted to come in to the pocket, as Gonzalo Pineda talks about, in that little half space. He wants to find that space. Moreno wants to find that space. Almada likes to find that space. It's not about the positions when they kick off. It's not about wingers playing like wide, old-school wingers. That's what your fullbacks are going to do. Brooks Lennon, you want him wide, putting in crosses. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. Andrew Gutman, you want him stretching the field wide. So you got to create the space. This game, how does Gonzalo Pineda start it? I think the question is really down to, does he opt to play Moreno and Almada in those wide positions coming inside, one on the left, one on the right, without Araujo, and play three central midfielders? One of them could be a little more expansive. Mateus Hosechu can do that. Not quite ready for Emerson Hyndman yet, but he's getting closer, and you got to figure out where he's going to fit into this team. You do have Santiago Sosa. Does he sit back a little bit more to deal with DC being direct, to deal with that long ball to help win that? He's going to stay home a little bit more. That's more of his game. Ozzy Alonso is going to go hunt the game a little bit. Do you pair Sosa and Alonso? Franco Ibarra back in the team now. He's absolutely going to go hunting and find the ball for you and regain possession and then facilitate others to play. Is that what you need in this game? It's an interesting conundrum with the way DC plays. They're going to press you. They're going to make life difficult for you. They are a team that can be a little less direct than maybe some of the other teams that play this way. They're not the Red Bulls. They're not Philadelphia. They're about 50% possession. They can play a little bit. Gonzalo talked about, how they'll win the ball back and they want to play a couple of passes and go. Philly and Red Bulls, it's like they win the ball back and they want to go. They don't waste any time. DC can knock it around a little bit. Edinson Flores can be a problem when he gets on the ball. Julian Gressel, we know what he can do from a wide position, putting in service. Atlanta has to keep the ball well here. And they have to, in my opinion, put a team on the field that will allow them to keep the ball well. They have a lot of players who are strong on the ball. I think maybe this isn't the greatest of games for a Franco Ibarra, who's not quite as good on the ball as a Josetu, as an Alonso, as a Sosa. I would not be surprised at all if the lineup looks like Joseph up top, assuming he's good coming back from Venezuela. He didn't play in the second game, so I think he's at least got minutes to give you. I don't know if he's got 90 after the travel. We'll find out. Joseph up top, Almada and Moreno on either side of him, but coming inside, tucking in. Might look a little bit like I don't know what we want to call this thing. It's not going to be, if you want to get really weird about it, a 4-3-2-1, but not a Christmas tree, because it's not going to play like a Christmas tree at all. If you want to use that nomenclature, have at it, I guess. If you want to call them wingers, call them that. Just don't get hung up on that stuff. Don't get hung up on that stuff, please. It doesn't matter as much as you think it might. It's all about how they play with the ball and how they play without the ball. How they play without the ball, they're going to have to use some pressure of their own. And Almada and Moreno are good at that, and they're going to have to be good at that in this game when DC does try to play a little bit. Make it uncomfortable for them, because I don't think DC's backline is very good on the ball. I think you can put them under pressure. Andy Nahar is, when he's playing as a right center back. But Steve Birnbaum, Brendan Hines-Ike, you can put them under some pressure. They'll give the ball back to you. See what that looks like. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lineup of Joseph, of Almada, of Moreno as a front three in some permutation, a midfield three of Sosa, of Alonso, of Josetu. Very good on the ball. Very strong in possession. Alonso can win the ball back well. Josetu's an underrated defender, as is Sosa. That's a group that when they get the ball, it's going to be hard to get it away from them, and they can build up the play. And Josetu and Alonso stepping up into the attacking half. I like that. And Alonso can then drop when he needs to and support Sosa. I like how that could look. This might be a game for that. Gutman on the left, Lennon on the right. The two center backs, I'm not expecting to see Miles Robinson start. I'm expecting Campbell and Alan Franco, who's 100%. I think that will be the case here. Brad Kazan in goal, obviously. And I think Atlanta will play their game. But it's going to be about if Atlanta connects their passes, if Atlanta keeps possession well, they will create chances. I think they'll especially create chances down the left. Could be a huge game for Andrew Gutman. And I think Atlanta can take care of this. They can't let DC be disruptive. They can't have bad turnovers and bad spots. They can't get frustrated. They have to play their game. I'm excited to see what Atlanta can do in this one in DC. You'll be able to listen to my call. I'll be on play-by-play. Buckle up. I have no idea where that's going to go. I'm on play-by-play with Jeff Lorenowitz on Star 94. So Star 94, Saturday night. Pre-match coverage starts at 7. Kickoff 7:38. Very short full-time report because there's a plane to catch to get back to the A afterwards. Mike Conti's on TV on Bally Sports South with Moadu, with Jillian Sakovitz. Same stuff, 7:30 for the pre-match, 7:38 for the kick, and they will have a half hour of a post-game show. So you can check that out. You can listen to us. You can check out the full-time report afterwards to hear the highlights of me maybe losing my mind yelling, maybe not. Maybe Jeff loses his mind yelling this time around. Who knows? It could get crazy. Really looking forward to it. Thanks for all the kind words from everybody out there. Always fun to get these kind of assignments when I get the opportunity to. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for checking us out this morning on an abbreviated SDH. More SDH to come later. John Nelson will have your World Cup draw reaction show. That will be this afternoon whenever they actually get around to doing the draw. TV coverage for that will start at 11:30. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back on Monday with a normal overreaction Monday to the draw, to the games, to all of it. We'll see you then. Mucha plata, y'all.